And turns out the Devil's Thumb, which is, I mean, it's a really, really amazing mountain. It's so far off the beaten path that not that many people have heard about it, but it's like the mountain that was the formative climbing experience for John Krakauer in Into the Wild. He has dedicates 2 chapters to going to try and climb this mountain. It's in the middle of this rainforest. It's this heavily glaciered, crevassed area. It's like, by the numbers, actually one of the most dangerous mountains in the world. But it's like so beautiful. If a kid draws a picture of a mountain, that's the shape they draw. It's really, really cool. But then I was also at this place where I'd ruptured my Achilles. I hadn't climbed for 2 years. I thought that biking would be a good way to heal. And also, I was so adventure starved that I was like, I need a really big adventure. Like, I haven't really climbed in 2 years. I want a really big adventure. So all those things started to come together in my mind, and I was like, I'm going to bike from my house in Colorado all the way to Alaska and then climb this mountain. And yeah, so it just seemed like it ticked so many boxes in my life.
What was the preparation time like for you all to get in shape before you pushed off from Colorado to Alaska?
Well, I mean, Alex actually had done some pretty big bike tours. Like, he climbed all the 14ers in California and biked between them at one point.
Yeah, he
With
did like
Heat,
that
right?
Sufferfest with Cedar. That's right. That's right.
Both Sufferfest, and then he did another one in the like climbing desert towers on a bike. So he had actually done more bike touring than I had. I just kind of had this idea, and I sort of, through my Achilles injury, I had to use my bike as a way to get cardio exercise just around home. So I'd been doing a fair amount of biking. Like, I'd been going out 5 days a week and biking for like an hour or two, which got me pretty fit for it.
Yeah.
And then when I started to anticipate the long ride, I went out and I think I did 2 like 100+ mile days on my bike just to make sure I knew how to like fuel myself on calories. But we weren't bikers. I mean, like we said, I mean, like, as I started to research things, I I talked to a friend who does the Colorado or the Continental Divide Trail Race every year. He's like a bike packer, and for a while he tried to convince me that I should take that route on dirt roads, which would have been great, but it just would have added too much time. So ultimately, we didn't do it. But I got information on how to bike pack a little bit more, and so I was planning on doing it, like carrying all my own stuff. But then when it became an Agio film project, we're like, a van's gonna be with us. We'll just have the van carry everything and jump on our bikes. But neither of us take biking seriously. Like, I'm sure bikers look at us like we look at beginner climbers that have, like, hexes clanking around on their harness. They're like, oh, they're doing it all wrong. They have no idea what they're doing.
All right, y'all, just a quick break here to talk about my training and how I have been tracking it lately. And that is by using this Coros watch. I'm using it to track my heart rate, my HRV, sleep, recovery, and just overall training load. And I'm loving it. It's called the Coros Apex 2. And you've probably seen loads of climbers using it, from Tommy Caldwell to Sasha DeJulian to Stefano Ghisolfi. And that is because it is the best damn fitness tracker when it comes to climbing specific training. It'll auto detect the pitches that you're climbing in the gym or out on rock. I love that feature. And you can program all sorts of workouts in there, including, by the way, hangboard workouts. So cool. Look, if you like to geek out over your training, and if you're busy like I am, this watch will totally change how you train. I love all the features on here. You can learn all about them at Coros.com. And by the way, you can score yourself a free watch band with the purchase of one of these Apex 2 Pros by using code STRUGGLE. Check it out, and let's get back to this chat. I'm curious what just stands out from that experience, whether it was the physical struggle or perhaps not along the way, and also just in taking these back roads and kind of non-roads sometimes, based on some of the things that I saw you all share, and talking to Taylor, the parts of America that you saw in Canada and into Alaska that you saw that maybe stood out as well. So maybe, yeah, a couple things from the experience between point A and point B that really have stuck with you.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I don't know where Google gets its bike directions. Like, when you hit that bike button, it doesn't mean much. Like day 2 and 3, we were like in the middle of Wyoming questing on cattle trails and like forging swamps. And I'm like, who has ridden their bike here before? Like, I could not believe it. And we're on these gravel bikes and we're just getting used to them. And it was like serious mountain biking. We had sort of budgeted 100 miles a day, which was, I felt like a little ambitious because I had only ridden 100 miles on my bike like twice in my life. And we were planning on doing it like every day. And so one really good thing is Alex is pretty smart in these ways. He's like, we are just going to keep it zone one the whole time. Like when I'd go out for training rides, I would push hard and I'd come back blown up, like bonking. Like I would come back from 100-mile training day and be like, I am destroyed. How am I going to do this for like 26 days straight? Once we got on our bikes, Alex was like, just go slow. We don't need to go fast. And it turns out if you just bike very slowly, I think you can just bike forever.
Huh.
So we figured that out pretty quickly.
And what was zone one? Was that like a heart rate thing or conversational thing? How were you essentially setting your pace?
Yeah, I wore a heart rate monitor, and I would, I tried to. I mean, I don't know if I really, like, we would keep it conversational. We would stop and eat, a lot of food whenever we needed to. And I think my average heart rate, like if I go back and look at like my Coros data, was around 110 most days on the bike and up to like 120 on like the hardest days. Like when we were in the middle of Wyoming questing across cattle trails, my heart rate was higher those days because I felt like I was going to die for like 8 hours at a time. I mean, and that was one thing that really stood out too. Like I had driven through southern Wyoming on I-80 a bunch of times. And when you drive, you're kind of like, it's like a little bit boring out here. But when you get out there on a bike, it's so cool because, you see these thunderstorms roll across the plains. There's like wild horses that when they see you, they like run towards you to basically say hi. There's pronghorns out there. The colors are really, really beautiful. Like doing it by bike totally changed the landscape in my mind, which was really cool. And I kind of thought it was going to do that for the whole ride, but actually we had a little bit the opposite experience in Canada where I was expecting central British Columbia to be kind of wild feeling, but it turns out it's just all logged. Like it's like riding across Kansas or something. It's just like, it feels like a farm, but the logging industry, like everything's been cut down. They leave like a little bit of a buffer on the side of the road. But when you can see through that, or Taylor would take his drone up, you can see it's just all been cut down. And so that was, and then there's just logging trucks buzzing you all day long too. So there's a lot of surprises on the trip, I guess. We climbed Mount Hooker, which I wasn't really thinking of that as an environmental fight, but it is wilderness. And so I've thought a lot about that since because of all the fixed anchors and wilderness issues going down there. Like Mount Hooker seems like a great example of a place where fixed anchors are kind of important, and we're thinking about what the future of that looks like.